Hi, this is Kenny Castro from Broadstreet, and I'm going to give you a quick demo of our ad management platform. This presentation will probably be most useful to prospective publishers, either established or startup publishers, and those looking to grow their own ad network. So Broadstreet is an ad management platform geared specifically toward news publishers, meaning we take in to consideration a lot of the features and the needs of news publishers, but anybody who needs a great ad manager can use Broadstreet. So at the point where you need to run ads on your website, whether it's from an advertiser or an ad network, that's the point where you probably want to start thinking about getting an ad manager, and Broadstreet's a great first step. So some of the publishers that we've worked with and we continue to work with, these are some of our most well-known clients. We have the Batavian, Baristanet, Cliffview Pilot, Oakland Local, Eastsider LA, and Hula Frog. And you'll notice that there's a kind of a running theme. We've worked with some very prominent but independent publishers. We're a big supporter of the independent publisher community. So if you're interested in looking at more of our current clients, you can go to broadstreetads.com/featured clients. Broadstreet was established in 2012. One of the co-founders is myself. I was a lead engineer at Yahoo's Right Media Exchange, and the other co-founder was John Carpezzi, who was a lead engineer at AOL's Patch. And we had left our jobs and decided to build what we thought was this big need in the news publishing community, which was an ad manager that was relatively easy to use. And we also wanted to build some tools around that ad manager that we think publishers could use to generate revenue. So you're looking at a Broadstreet and you might be saying, why should I choose Broadstreet? Well, number one, it's fast, extremely fast ad serving. So we serve in probably about 1/5 the time that Google DFP or some of our competitors serve ads in. It's a very simple interface. We built Broadstreet around simplicity specifically. We wanted it to be something that was easy to use. It's a cloud-hosted service. We probably offer the best customer support out of anybody in our industry. We're very responsive to our publishers' needs and feature requests. We're constantly growing in terms of the features that we have and also the number of publishers we have. And we're very extendable, so we're very developer friendly. John and I were both engineers by trade, and we built our platform around the idea of being extendable. So if you have a developer who's looking to build something on top of Broadstreet or build some functionality that needs ad serving, we have an API that can help them do that. So a quick overview of what we're going to be talking about in this demo. Number one, we'll just talk about how to get an account. Very easy. You sign up on the website. How to set up one or more publications. We'll go over some of the core features of Broadstreet. So advertisers, advertisements, campaigns, reporting, getting all that information like clicks, views, and reporting over date ranges. Availability, figuring out what ad slots are available at any given time, and how you get customer support. Then we're going to get a little deeper, and we're going to look at specific features like zones and say, how can I create a rotating slideshow-like zone, or how can I put multiple advertisements in a zone? How can I make ads run in newsletters? We'll also go into advertisements, the different advertisements that Broadstreet can serve. Account management, meaning adding administrators to your account or maybe sub-accounts such as advertisers. And then we'll get into some lesser used but very useful functionality like keyword targeting and advertiser billing. So here we are on the Broadstreet website, and you can see we have the sign-in link up here and also a register link. So I'm going to click on register, and I'm going to say Broadstreet Demo is my name. Kenny plus demo at ads.com, and then I'll set a password. So once I do this, I'll get a welcome email with some of my information, but we'll jump right into it. So while I'm setting this up and while this is loading, we're actually going to be working off of this test website. This is just a basic WordPress site. You don't have to use WordPress to use Broadstreet, but we're going to use this because many of our publishers just happen to be using WordPress. So we'll get started here. So we can scroll down, accept the agreement, and then it asks us to set up a new publisher. So I'm going to call this Broadstreet Demo, and we can pick the light tier. There are differences among the tiers. You can check out on our website, see what the differences are. If you happen to be an enterprise publisher where speed is your #1 priority, Express or authority is actually your best choice. We serve all the ads off a CDN, and we give the ad serving general priority in that manner. Express, there are some extra features like having reports automatically emailed to advertisers, which is useful. So look at the different tiers. For startup publishers, Lite tends to work out really well. And no matter what tier you are on, if you serve under 100,000 impressions in a month, we do not bill. So if you were just getting started and you want to kick the tires and you're clocking a little fewer than 100,000 impressions per month, you won't get a bill at all. After that, you'll end up paying the tier price. So I can set my time zone. There we are, Eastern time. And auto scrubbing, that's just a feature if you want campaigns to be automatically removed once they run. I think it's a matter of preference. I like to have it off. So we have Broadstreet demo. So we have the website that we looked at before, and we have a new account. So the first thing that we're going to do now that we're set up with a new account is create a new zone. So we're going to create a zone and call it sidebar top right 300x250. Now I like to name it with this particular pattern, the area coming first, then a dash, something a little more descriptive, and then the size. Broadstreet allows you to serve any size zone or any size ad. I just like to have the size in the name. So that's all we need. We're actually just going to stick the default settings right now and go to create zone. And you can see we don't have anything running in it yet. So now that I have this zone created, the first thing I want to do is get the JavaScript for that code. So I want the ads to run on my site, and I've created this zone, or a zone is essentially where an ad is going to show up. Think of it as an ad unit. So to get that zone, I only need to do this part once. What I need to do is copy and paste this code and put it right in my theme. So in the header file, and sometimes you can have a developer do this, and if you don't want to do it, you can actually have your, you can actually use the Broadstreet plugin for WordPress if this part escapes you. And but I did want to keep this platform agnostic, so if you're using Joomla, you're probably going to do something similar. If you're using Drupal, you're going to do something very similar. So we just pasted in the Broadstreet header script, and now we need to get that zone code. So now that I've pasted that first line in, I never have to paste that first line in again. Every time I create a new zone, all I have to worry about is this snippet right here. So we're going to go to our widgets area, and I want it to show up in the sidebar in the top right. That's where I want my zone to render. So what I'm going to do is just get a standard text widget in WordPress. And paste this in. Maybe I'll just say sponsor. So nothing's going to show up right away because we haven't created an ad for that zone yet. But we'll save it. Alright, let's see if it's showing up on our site. Alright, so we have an area but no ad, and we'll fix that. So now that we have this ad unit deployed to our site, what we can do is go back to our dashboard, and this time we're going to click on advertisers. So as you grow and you make more sales, and obviously you're going to have new advertisers, and you're going to want to give each advertiser their own individual account. So let's call this demo advertiser. And then under each advertiser, we're going to create their advertisements. So all of this advertiser's advertisements, they're going to go under the advertiser's account. So we're going to create a banner ad. I'll say demo advertisement. We're going to choose a destination, so why don't we just say broadstreetads.com. And then we're going to choose an image to use as the banner advertisement. Where are we? Here we are. And then create advertisement. And you can see it load. And you can see it loaded. So now that we've uploaded the advertisement, what we want to do is link that zone and that ad we just uploaded. So we created the zone, we called it sidebar top 300 by 250, and we created the advertisement. And then what we want to do is just create a campaign. So when I'm just creating a campaign very quickly, I like to go down here and I'll just call it quick campaign. I can set a start date and an end date if there are specific rules regarding when the advertiser wanted the ad to run for. And then I'm going to pick the zone that I created earlier. So one thing about Broadstreet is that there is no delay between when you set an ad to run and when it goes live. So other advertising platforms, Google DFP, OpenX, they have what's known as a cache, and that cache has to get cleared. So sometimes about 20 minutes before you see the changes. That was a big thing for us. We want to make sure that publishers didn't have to go crazy waiting to see if their changes took hold. So let's go back to our site and see if our ad is running. Let's see that it is. So we see that 300 by 250 right there. Now that our ad is running, let's take a look at the reporting. So I've refreshed the page a few times, and if we click back into the advertisers page, we're going to click on reporting and see if we have any stats. Okay, so you can see I hovered over the ad before, and I have 3 views. So the reporting generally comes in pretty quickly. It's a few minutes to about 10 minutes to update the stats, which we find is quick enough. It comes in from each of our ad servers. So it's fairly up-to-date reporting. You can see the date range I can set up top. So if I want to select a start date that's earlier, I can do reporting over a long date range. And if the advertiser has multiple ads, you'll see all of their ads right here with a breakdown of the views, hovers, and clicks. And just one note, hovers is a relatively rare feature, and we track the hovers. We wanted something between clicks and views. So every time a user messes over their ad, once per page, we'll track a hover. So you can kind of give the advertiser at least some sort of idea of whether it's been interacted with or their ad has been interacted with. So that ends the basic usage or the demonstration of the basic usage of our ad server. So if you have any questions once you're getting up and running, you can always click up here and go to our support area. So we'll click on support. And you'll see that it's kind of a question and answer. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask it right here. Of course, take a look through the question and answers to see if anyone else has asked that question before. We've also preloaded the support area with commonly asked questions. So for example, just the other day, someone asked if there was a way to export zones, and there actually wasn't. So we implemented the feature so the user could export their zones to CSV format. So like I said earlier, we're very responsive to feature requests and very responsive in terms of help requests. So if you have any questions, you can ask it here, and if there are account specific questions or something with sensitive information that you don't want to share on the question and answer site, you can always email our support address. It's support@broadstreetads.com. So now let's take a look at some of the more sophisticated uses of the ad server, but they're still very common use cases of the ad server. So we have zones, rotating multiple advertisements. Let's take a look at that. So very often on a website, you'll see maybe 2 ads in 2 different spots shuffling between each other. So what we're going to do, we're going to set up something similar to that. So we'll go back to our advertiser, and we'll create a new advertiser. We'll second the demo advertiser. And we're going to create a new advertisement. Create a standard banner ad. Say second demo advertisement. Pick Broadstreet ads. And then we have a second advertisement. It's got a red 2 in it, so we'll know it's the second advertisement that I uploaded. All right, there we go. So just like before, we're going to add it to a campaign. So I'm gonna add it to the second. Add it to the first zone I created before. And we'll see that now that I have 2 ads targeted to the same zone, when I refresh the page, I just refreshed it once, refreshed it a second time, you'll see that each time the ad server is randomly choosing an ad. So it is random, it doesn't alternate evenly, but over time it works out to almost exactly 50-50. So that's one use case where you have a share of voice set up, where each advertiser has 50% share of voice. If I wanted to have 25% share of voice, I could just upload two ads for two other advertisers and book them to that slot. And then we'll kind of replicate a second scenario where you want ads rotating position. So we're going to say sidebar, bottom right, 300 by 250. All right, we're going to stick with the same default settings. Now I'm going to get my zone code over here. Copy that. And go back to my demo site, or I'm going to go back to the widgets area. Here's the zone I created before, and let's put it below the recent posts widget. So I'm going to go back up here, recent posts, drag that, paste in my zone code. Remember, I didn't have to paste that header script in because I already did that once. And I'll just say second sponsor just so it's called out on the page. So let's refresh the page. All right. So we have that second zone and we have that second area. Now what we're going to do is go back to the demo advertiser I created before. And we can see that we have it inside Quick Campaign. Now I'm going to go to placements. So placements is a way to, before we used Quick Campaign, where you can quickly add an ad to a campaign, but if you really want to pick and choose the different ads or the different positions that an ad lands in inside a campaign, you can go to the placements page. And we're going to add it to the bottom right. So we're going to say demo advertiser, bottom right. The very bottom, you can't see it's clipped from the screen, but there's a button that says create placements. Now we're going to go back to our advertiser, go to second demo advertiser. And I'm going to edit this campaign, go to the placements page. And I'm also going to add that to the bottom right. And I'm going to click that create placements button. So now I have each of the two ads I've created, I have them both targeted to both the top right sidebar position we created and the bottom right sidebar position we created. So if I refresh this page, you can see that we have the top position and now we have the bottom position. Now if I refresh a few times, we should actually see the positions change every now and then. So randomly chosen. So if you have a situation where you have an advertiser, you want ads to show up in different positions, you want them to rotate through, you can do that by plugging them into campaigns into different ad units, just like I did. So one thing that we could do going forward, imagine that instead of ads being separated by recent post and second sponsor, where we have two individual ad units, there's some cases where you want multiple ads to show up in the same ad unit. And there are a few different reasons you might want to do that, and one of them is that you plan to have a lot of ads down the sidebar. So maybe you plan to have about 20 ads down the sidebar, which is very common on some smaller news sites. The way you can do that, you can either set up 20 ad zones, which tends to become tedious over time, or you can replicate the same ad zone. You can say sidebar top right and just paste in that code about 20 times in WordPress. But the most efficient way to do that tends to be using the same ad zone. So we'll go to the zones we created before, and what if I just say, hey, the sidebar top right should be able to accept up to 10 advertisements. Actually, maybe we'll just say 2 for now. All right, so this is actually what would happen. It would actually take all of the advertisements that were applicable to that ad unit at any given time, meaning there was a campaign that was booked for it, and get as many as it can up until that limit that you set. Now, what we're actually going to do here, you can see that they showed up side by side, and that might work for some sites. In fact, it might work quite naturally if we, you can see I just refreshed the page, and now this is the same ad unit displaying 2 ads. And because those ad units were each booked in both of the campaigns that I set, the ad unit that I set down here, which says second sponsor, it won't have any ads to show because these ads had already appeared. So that's another feature of Broadstreet, is that it deduplicates campaigns. while they're being served. So you can see that if I refresh the page, they'll rotate back and forth. And I could actually set that limit as high as I wanted. If I wanted 20 ads to appear, that means I could book as many ads as I wanted to that single ad unit, and they would keep appearing. And that's more efficient because instead of having 20 zones down a page, it only makes one ad call to the ad server and pulls back all 20 of those ads. So it tends to be more efficient. So if you do plan to have a lot of ads down the sidebar, that works out pretty well. So one thing I didn't note yet is that depending on the site, there might not always be this nice separation. It depends on the styling of the actual site. So if you wanted to actually modify the styling of that particular zone, what you can do is go to Edit Zone over here, go down to Style, and we'll say display block margin bottom 10 pixels. So this is CSS, and this gets applied to each individual advertisement. So just for example purposes, meaning you probably wouldn't want to do this in real life, we'll set the margin to 30 pixels. You can see, so now what it did is it pushes that second ad down. Instead of displaying side by side, it pushes that second ad down and separates them by 30 pixels. If I go back to the site, we're going to see we're going to have the same setup. So that's kind of handy if you need to modify the styling of the ads. You can do it right inside the ad server instead of messing around with the CSS on your website. One other thing that I said we would go over was running ads in email. So we won't actually go through the whole email template editing process, but if you're using MailChimp, you can use this RSS feed, which you can use as a merge tag inside RSS, and you can pull in ads via that RSS feed. So that RSS feed will actually contain all the information you need to display ads inside your RSS feed. And typically a developer might be someone that would be good to talk to because there is a little bit of code involved. And if you're a complete novice or you don't have access to a developer, you can actually use our static code. And this you can just place in your newsletter once, and it will display the ad and still count the impression or the views and the clicks. There are some potential downsides to this strategy because the browser might actually cache the ad in between campaigns, but for the most part it works really well for our publishers who might not be using MailChimp or aren't able to use the RSS feed. And Broadstreet, we even use it in our own newsletters. One other thing I didn't mention is that we have both JavaScript and iframe compatible ads. So if you want to serve your ads in an iframe, which is handy because the ads will load asynchronously, meaning it'll run a little bit faster in the browser. But JavaScript tends to be the most flexible. If you have expandable ads, maybe you're using a third-party ad creation service and you have expandable ads, that tends to be the time that you want to use the JavaScript ads, and we actually recommend using them. And also, one thing I didn't mention is that the iframe ad can only support one ad at a time. The JavaScript ad unit can support the multiple ads in an ad unit, just like I demonstrated before. So let's go back to the demo. Broadstreet supports both HTML and Flash or Swifts. We also do email reporting. So if I had an advertiser, let's just go back to demo advertiser. If I had an advertiser who wanted to receive weekly reports by email, I can actually just go back and I'm on the advertiser's page. I can actually just go to the advertiser's page, click edit, and I can add administrators right here. So if I wanted to add an administrator, I would just click in here, enter their email address, and they'll get a welcome email. And then I can also set them up to receive weekly, monthly, or quarterly reports. So that'll give them information on how their campaigns perform on your system. One other benefit to creating an administrator is that if we go back to the ads that we uploaded for that particular advertiser, we can edit the advertisement. We can say allows editing. And if the advertiser logs in, they can actually upload their own banner. So if they have a new 300 by 250 or some new creatives, they can edit this particular ad. They won't be able to change any campaign data. They won't be able to change anything other than their own account. So they can edit where the destination goes and what the image is. So that's very handy for some of our publishers. Going back, we actually already discussed administrators for advertisers, but if you want to um, add administrators to your own account, you can see we have our account right here. But if we wanted to add, maybe a co-founder or maybe a developer who's going to be working with it, we can add an account for them right here so they can log in. Go back one more time. One thing that we didn't discuss yet is keyword targeting. So this is an advanced feature. It requires the authority tier to use, but with keyword targeting, what we'll do actually is we'll go back to, we'll edit our network to be on the authority tier, and we'll update the network. And when we go back to our zones right here, what we're going to do is we're going to click into our zones. I'm going to say get zone code. And when you're on the authority tier, you get a different style of ad tag. And you can enter in keywords that should be associated with this ad tag. So this is actually most handy if you have a developer. So if you have, let's just say that you have a lot of different categories or tags or posts with tags on your site, keywords tend to be handy so you can target that specific content. So let's just say keywords were the categories that a post was in, or the one category that a post was in. You could have a developer implement this ad tag and insert the categories right in this option right here for the ad tag. So let's just say it was in the breaking news category, and then you had an advertiser who specifically wanted to advertise in the breaking news category. Once that ad tag was implemented like that, when you can go to edit the campaign, and you can say edit this campaign, and you can actually attach keywords. So however, whatever you named the category, or whatever the category slug was in WordPress or whatever CMS you're using, you could do something like breaking news. And now this campaign would actually only run in zones where the keyword was set to breaking news. So that's very handy, especially if you really want to kind of cut up the inventory across your site. You don't want to give everyone run of site, and you want to run advertisements on specific sections of your site. It's very common, especially as publishers become more robust in their ad sales and they start running out of inventory, which is a good problem to have. So we'll come back here, and then advertiser billing. So that's the last feature we're really going to talk about. If you have an advertiser that you would like, they have a credit card, and it's always nice to have the advertiser's credit card on file because you don't have to go chasing them down for payment. You can actually set up a billing account for them right here. You can put in the name and their credit card number, obviously the other information, and you can keep that on file. We'll keep it on file in an entirely secured PCI compliant manner, and then whenever you need to go back and bill that advertiser, you can do it right here, and it'll show up on their credit card invoice as being from Broadstreet ads. So you can do that here. It's handy. It cuts down on the overhead of, hopefully you're not getting checks or tracking down people for payment. You can just bill them right here, and the advertiser will also get an email as a receipt. So if there's anything that you have questions about, Broadstreet has other products which surround our ad server. We have editable ads, which you might be interested in. You can go to adsofthefuture.com to learn about it, and you can also check out Selfie. And you can see this publisher that we just created doesn't have Selfie set up, but if you're interested, you click on that and find out what Selfie is all about. It's probably the smoothest self-serve advertising widget that's available. We have a very slick integration for WordPress, and you can check that out. But it's essentially text-only self-serve advertising that you can deploy almost anywhere on your site. If you have any questions, you can head over to howto.broadstreetads.com. That's the support site that we've set up, and also join our Facebook community group. We're always on Facebook. There's a lot of activity, a lot of publishers who just like to throw out questions, and that's totally fine. But you get to see, it's nice. It's a nice community because there are other publishers who are doing what you're doing. So I hope you enjoyed this demo. If you have any other questions, anything that's, like if it pertains to sensitive information, you can reach support@broadstreetads.com, or you can reach me. I'm Kenny at broadstreetads.com.